Another question you may be asking yourself is how to pass parameters to a command to work with them. Well, I'm going to show you two ways in which we could use values inside a command. Let's suppose that as part of the graphical interface, we want to use a search bar control. Let's look for a command for this control, and we see that we get one called search command, which is going to be executed when we perform a search with a control. We're going to bind it through a binding with a command, which we will call search command. Let's copy the name of the command, let's go back to the view model, and let's declare the property to be of type iCommand, which is called search command. The first approach we're going to follow to get information is to use the properties of the same control towards a property in the view model. In this case, for example, suppose we want to get what is the value that has been entered as the search term. Let us then use the property called text, with which we will obtain the text entered. Through a binding, let's bind to a property called search term. Let's copy the name of the property and create it in the view model. Let's indicate that it is of type string. Let's paste the name of the property, and once we have done this, when we carry out the execution of the search command, we have to define it. We will have the string available to be used as part of the command. Let's, for example, declare a variable called data that is equal to search term. To see this functionality, let's place a breakpoint and start the application. We already see the search bar. Let's enter some term such as .NET Maui. Click on the search button. Let's visualize the information inside the variable called data, and we can see the term that has been previously searched. A second way to carry out the pass of information of a control is sending, which is the parameter with which we want to work from the binding. How can we do this? Well, I'm going to return to the XAML file. I'm going to remove the definition of the text property, and as part of the different parameters of the controls, if we look for the term command, a property that ends with the word parameter appears. This property is going to allow us to send a parameter to the command that we have established. We will use this property in a similar way as we do with a normal binding. We write binding, but in this occasion I'm going to indicate that I want to create a binding to the text property of this search bar. Therefore, I have to define a name for the control that is equal to search bar. With this, we will be able to send any data of the control to the view model. As we have studied previously, to get a reference of a control, we have to specify a source as part of the binding, and we will use the reference of the control, which in this case is search bar. Also, remember that as part of the binding, we can specify a path, which will be equal to the text property, to obtain the text of the control. Once we have created the property, the next step is to return to the view model, and as part of the command, we will add a parameter in the lambda expression, where the result obtained from the binding will be start. Let's name the parameter with an s, and instead of assigning the search term property to the data variable, let's assign the value of s to it. We start the execution once again. Let's type a term as part of the search bar. Let's perform the search. Let's check the value of the variable data, and we have the term we search for. This is the second way in which we can use parameters in a command.